On September 17, 1944, at 14,000 feet over Eindhoven, Netherlands, the first day of Operation Market Garden started the biggest airdrop mission in history, across the farmlands of Holland. Among the thousands of Allied planes helping the paratroopers, groups of P-47 Thunderbolts flew over the landing areas. Before we continue, show your support by subscribing and letting me know where you're watching from. Their wings were heavy with weapons that would have seemed unbelievable just 18 months before. For the German pilots scrambling to stop them, the sight of these bulky American fighters carrying 2,500 pounds of bombs, half the usual load of a B-17 Flying Fortress on long missions, was a change they had not expected. The fighter they had brushed off in 1943 as too heavy and awkward for dogfights had become something that challenged their basic knowledge of air combat. A single-seat, single-engine plane that could fight its way to a target, drop the bomb load of a small bomber and then fight its way back home. The change of the P-47 from a pure fighter to the most powerful fighter bomber in Europe would not only alter tactics, it would speed up the German army's downfall and forever change military air strategy. What the German Air Force never saw coming was that American practical thinking had made not just a fighter or a bomber, but something totally new. A universal combat plane that could do any job at any time with incredible results. The Republic P-47 Thunderbolt, that first saw combat in April 1943, seemed to prove every German bias about American plane design. Big, heavy, and strong, but without the skilled touch of German engineering. When the 4th Fighter Group flew the plane's first official combat mission on April 8, 1943, German intelligence officers studying the new American fighter came to expected conclusions. The technical details alone pointed to a mediocre aircraft. The P-47 weighed 10,000 pounds empty, twice as much as a Messerschmitt Bf-109G. Its huge Pratt & Whitney R2800 double wasp engine, an 18-cylinder radial making 2,000 horsepower. Later models would reach 2,300 and then 2,800 horsepower. Had to power a plane that looked like it was designed by someone who had never heard of aerodynamics. Early combat meetings supported German beliefs. The P-47's early fighting range of just 125 miles greatly limited its use as a bomber escort. Its climbing speed was slower than German fighters, and in turning fights at middle altitudes, the Focke-Wulf 190 and Bf-109 had clear edges. German pilots soon found ways to use these weak points, forcing the heavy American fighter into turning fights or up-and-down maneuvers where its weight was a problem. What the German Air Force's technical experts didn't understand was that they were seeing a plane in its early stages, designed with abilities that wouldn't be fully used for another year. The strong build that made it heavy, with a frame of steel tubes and armor, also let it take a huge amount of damage and carry amazing loads on its wings. The pylons under the wings, first meant for fuel tanks to increase its range, were built to hold up to 2,500 pounds of bombs, a load that would have ripped the wings off most other fighters of that time. The change began not with a big plan, but with practical adjustments. As 1943 went on, P-47 pilots coming back from bomber escort missions started shooting at targets they happened to see, like trains, truck convoys, and fuel storage areas. The outcomes were immediately good. The 8 Browning M250 caliber machine guns, each firing 800 rounds a minute, could send out 12.7 pounds of lead per second, enough to break through a locomotive's boiler or tear up a truck convoy. The first official bomb-carrying changes were made in November 1943. Engineers put in bomb shackles for 500-pound bombs on the belly and wing pylons. On November 25, 1943, the 62nd Fighter Squadron flew the first official P-47 bombing mission, attacking the German airfield at Saint-Omer, France. 8 Thunderbolts, each with 2 250-pound bombs, successfully blew up 2 hangars and damaged 5 planes on the ground. During the winter of 1943-44, Republic Aviation and the USAF Technical Services sped up the P-47's change. Engineers strengthened the wing supports to deal with uneven loads when only 1 bomb was released. They created new electrical systems for bomb releases that could work at 30,000 feet or just above the trees. They made special gun sights like the K-14 computing gun sight that could figure out bombing angles for dive and glide attacks. By early 1944, the changes had gone far beyond simple bomb racks. The M8 4.5-inch rockets, each with the power of a 105mm artillery shell, gave the P-47 the firepower of a warship. A single Thunderbolt could carry 10 rockets plus two 1,000-pound bombs. More explosive force than many twin-engine bombers had early in the war. D-Day, June 6, 1944, was the day the German Air Force fully understood what the P-47 had turned into. On that one day, P-47s flew 1,985 missions, dropped 525 tons of bombs, and fired 135,000 rounds of 50 caliber bullets. They destroyed 86 trains, 507 vehicles, 38 gun positions, and 17 fuel dumps. The plane the Germans had labeled as a so-so high-altitude fighter had become the main tool of tactical air power. German pilot Gerhard Barkhorn, one of history's top aces with 275 wins, faced P-47s all through 1944. In a 1996 interview, he remembered the P-47, which, as you know, shot me down, we knew right away. It had tremendous diving speed. I learned this quickly when they chased me, and I could do nothing else. On May 12, 1944, Barkhorn was shot down by P-47s from the 56th Fighter Group, losing his left thumb in the fight. His damaged flying glove is now at the National Air and Space Museum. After the war, Barkhorn flew captured P-47s for about 300 hours, studying Allied plane abilities. The P-47's power to switch instantly from bomber to fighter created a tactical puzzle the German Air Force couldn't solve. German fighters sent to attack what looked like easy targets found themselves in life-or-death combat against planes that had just dropped their bombs and turned back into pure fighters with better firepower and amazing toughness. The numbers showing the P-47's carrying ability made it mathematically impossible for German supply lines. A standard P-47 D-25 could carry different bomb setups, two 1,000-pound bombs, three 500-pound bombs, or a mix of bombs and rockets adding up to 2,500 pounds. This was 62.5% of a B-17's usual 4,000-pound load on long flights, making the comparison of half the Flying Fortress's bomb load a fair one. A squadron of 16 P-47s could drop 32,000 pounds of bombs, the same as 8 B-17s with normal combat loads. But unlike heavy bombers that flew from England a couple of times a week, P-47s could fly 3 missions a day from nearby airfields. A single P-47 squadron could, in theory, drop more bomb weight in a day than a heavy bomber squadron did in a week. The difference in efficiency was huge. One P-47 with two 500-pound bombs needed one pilot and a small ground crew. One B-17 with 4,000 pounds of bombs needed 10 aircrew members plus special ground support. The fighter bomber delivered major destructive force with a small part of the manpower. August 1944 showed the P-47's most powerful display of fighter bomber success during the Falaise Pocket operation. As German troops tried to escape being surrounded between August 12th and 21st, they were under constant attack from P-47s, flying in shifts from morning to night. The confirmed kills from Falaise, checked by ground crews, included August 13th, 112 tanks destroyed. August 14th, 287 vehicles destroyed. August 15th, 42 trains destroyed. August 16th, 89 horse-drawn wagons destroyed. The 9th Air Force's P-47 groups worked in a relay, with new squadrons coming in as others left to rearm and refuel. This kept steady pressure on German forces trying to move during the day. After-battle studies showed that about 1/3 of all German vehicles destroyed in the pocket were hit by air attacks, with P-47s responsible for most of those kills. September 1944 saw the wide use of the 5-inch high-velocity aircraft rocket, HVAR, turning P-47s into tank killers. Each HVAR had a 60-pound warhead that could go through any German tank's armor, including the tough Tiger and Panther. A P-47 could carry 10 HVRs, delivering the power of a battalion's artillery in one pass. The 362nd Fighter Group led the way in systematic rocket attacks on German armor. Their reports after missions detailed the method, diving from 5,000 feet at a 30-degree angle, firing rockets at 1,500 feet, and getting direct hits on 30 to 40% of launches, which was much more accurate than artillery. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 showed the P-47's growth into an all-weather fighter bomber. Even with freezing fog and snow that kept most planes on the ground, P-47s with British-made rocket rails and better instruments kept flying. When the weather cleared for a short time on December 23rd, P-47s flew 647 missions, claiming over 400 vehicles destroyed. The numbers from December 23rd to 27th, 1944, show the P-47's effect. 201 tanks confirmed destroyed. 1930 motor vehicles destroyed. 5 horse-drawn wagons destroyed. 89 trains destroyed, 512 railcars destroyed, and 47 bridges damaged or destroyed. January 1945 showed another P-47 skill, precisely destroying bridges with 1,000-pound bombs. The 56th Fighter Group created methods for taking out railway bridges that had survived heavy bomber raids. 8 P-47s could drop bombs with 50-foot accuracy and 60-degree dives, far better than the precision of high-altitude heavy bombers, which were lucky to hit within 1,000 feet of their target. The arrival of the Me-262 jet fighter in early 1945 should have changed the game. With a 100 Mach speed advantage over P-47s, the jet seemed impossible to catch. But the P-47's change into a fighter bomber created an unforeseen weakness. Me-262s needed long concrete runways and used fuel at a very high rate. Their bases became top targets for P-47 fighter bombers. On March 21, 1945, P-47s of the 365th Fighter Group caught JG-7's Me-262s during takeoff. The jets speeding down the runway couldn't turn or get up to the speed needed to get away. 8 Me-262s were destroyed in 5 minutes, more than the Germans could make in a week. March 1945's Operation Clarion involved the systematic destruction of the German transport system by fighter bombers. P-47s were given areas with instructions to destroy anything that moved or could be moved. On March 22 alone, P-47s claimed 89 trains destroyed, 126 railcars destroyed, 155 motor vehicles destroyed, 17 bridges knocked down, and 93 rail lines cut. The P-47's transformation needed constant new ideas. The P-47 D-25, which appeared in mid-1944, had reinforced wings made for a 3,000-pound external load, universal bomb shackles that could hold British and American bombs, zero-length rocket launchers to reduce air resistance, better oil cooling for long, low-altitude flights, paddle blade propellers for quicker acceleration, water injection that boosted power to 2,800 horsepower, and the K-14 computing gun sight for accurate bombing. Republic Aviation's plants showed amazing production flexibility. They reached a peak of 35 P-47s per day, with 28 major versions made and 430 field update kits created. The plants kept up continuous production for 48 months without stopping for a redesign, a feat no other fighter maker could match. Changing P-47 pilots from fighter experts to multi-role combat flyers required new ways of training. The USAAF created programs that demanded a minimum of 200 flight hours before combat, including 50 practice bombing runs, 20 rocket firing passes, 100 strafing runs, 40 hours of instrument flying, and 30 hours of formation flying. This detailed training was very different from the late-war German pilot training, which had dropped to just 110 flight hours before combat, with no fighter-bomber training for fighter pilots. American pilots showed skill in high-altitude escort, mid-altitude combat, low-level navigation, dive bombing, skip bombing, glide bombing, rocket firing, napalm delivery, and ground strafing, switching between roles as missions required. February 1945 saw the use of napalm bombs carried by P-47s. The 150-gallon drop tanks filled with jellied gasoline made weapons that could burn down whole city blocks or forest positions. The 362nd Fighter Group first used napalm in action on February 14, 1945, against a German Army supply depot hidden in a forest. 8 P-47s, each with one napalm tank and one 500-pound bomb, created a firestorm that could be seen from 20 miles away, destroying 3 acres of supplies in minutes. From March to May 1945, the P-47 was at its highest point of development. The P-47M, which could fly at 470 mph, entered service with abilities that matched early jets. The P-47N, made for the Pacific, showed a 2,350-mile range with bombs, but it was the way it was used in combat that truly changed warfare. P-47s acted as forward air controllers guiding other planes, artillery spotters for ground troops, photo reconnaissance planes, communication relays, psychological warfare tools dropping leaflets, and emergency supply carriers to surrounded troops. The same type of plane could do 6 different kinds of missions in a single day. The full statistics of P-47 operations show the revolution. Production: 15,683 P-47s built, the most produced American fighter. Combat operations: over 746,000 missions flown. Combat losses: 3,499 planes. Loss rate per mission: 0.7%. Air-to-air kill ratio: 4.6 to 1. Weapons delivered, 132,000 tons of bombs, 135,000 rockets, and 119 million .50 caliber rounds. Confirmed destruction in Europe, over 7,000 enemy aircraft, 9,000 trains, 86,000 railway cars, 68,000 motor vehicles, and 6,000 armored vehicles. The P-47's development fundamentally altered military planning. Before the war, rules strictly divided strategic and tactical air power. Heavy bombers were for strategic targets, fighters for air control, and attack planes for ground support. The P-47 combined these roles, creating strategic results through tactical actions. The destruction of the transport system by P-47s did what years of strategic bombing had difficulty doing. By April 1945, German forces could not move in daylight. Supply lines stopped working. Reinforcements couldn't get to the front. The tactical had become strategic simply through its accumulated impact. Analysis after the war showed that fighter-bomber missions, mainly by P-47s, cut German rail traffic by 75% in forward areas by March 1945. This transport paralysis did more to defeat Germany than the destruction of industrial targets by heavy bombers. The P-47's success led to major changes in military rules. The U.S. Air Force's first rule book in 1947 said, "The artificial line between fighter and attack aircraft is now outdated. All fighters must be able to attack ground targets. All attack aircraft must be able to defend themselves." This was a complete turnaround from pre-war ideas. The 1935 Army Air Corps Manual had said, "The only job of pursuit aviation is to gain air superiority through air combat. Using them for other roles weakens this main mission." The P-47 proved that mission flexibility increased combat strength. A fighter that could only fight was half as useful as one that could fight and bomb. This lesson influenced every American fighter design that followed. The P-47's idea was so groundbreaking that it shaped post-war plane design around the world. When the Korean War started in 1950, the P-47's direct successors, F-84 Thunderjets and F-86 Sabres, set up as fighter bombers, controlled tactical air warfare. The multi-role fighter idea started by the P-47 had become the standard approach. Republic Aviation's change of the P-47 showed American industrial power at its best. The company's founder, Alexander Kartveli, had designed the plane with extra strength. The Army Air Forces asked for a plane capable of 6 Gs. Kartveli built one stressed for 12 Gs. They wanted it to carry 500-pound bombs. He provided a structure for 2,500 pounds. This overbuilding allowed for field changes that transformed the plane's abilities faster than official design updates could. The P-47s that left Republic's factories in 1945 had hundreds of upgrades based on combat experience. Yet production never paused for a major redesign. The production numbers show the industrial miracle. 48 months of non-stop production, 15,683 planes delivered, 28 major versions, 430 field update kits, a peak production of 35 planes a day, and a cost reduction of 27% even as its abilities grew. The P-47's fighter-bomber idea influenced every combat plane designed after it. Direct successors include the F-84 Thunderjet and the A-10 Thunderbolt II, which was named specifically after the P-47. Conceptual inheritors include the F-4 Phantom II, F-16 Fighting Falcon, F-15E Strike Eagle, and F-35 Lightning II. The P-47 set the pattern. Build it strong, build it to be adaptable, and let real-world needs drive how its abilities grow. The detailed training program created for P-47 fighter-bomber pilots set standards still used today. Modern fighter pilots are trained for air-to-air combat, air-to-ground attack, reconnaissance, and electronic warfare, a multi-role method started by P-47 squadrons. The 200-hour pre-combat training rule for P-47 pilots became the standard for post-war air forces worldwide. The focus on instrument flying, formation tactics, and weapon delivery accuracy created professional standards that defined modern military flying. German Air Force veterans' assessments after the war consistently pointed to the P-47 fighter-bomber as a key reason for Germany's defeat. The verified testimony of Gerhard Barkhorn, who flew captured P-47s a great deal after the war, gives important insight. In his 1996 interview, he praised the plane's comfort, reliability, and flexibility, saying especially that the engine had no oil leaks, unlike German planes. Statistical analysis backs up veteran accounts. By the end of the war, the German Air Force could only get about 100 operational fighters in the air on any day, not because of a lack of planes, but a lack of fuel, airfields, and supplies destroyed by P-47s. The fighter bomber had done what strategic bombing could not, completely paralyze the enemy's operations. The P-47's fighter bomber ability offered amazing economic efficiency compared to regular bombing. The cost per ton of bombs dropped by a P-47 Thunderbolt was around $4,200, compared to $28,000 for a B-17. The manpower losses and support needs were also a fraction of those for heavy bombers. The math was clear. P-47s delivered destruction at 15% of the cost and 10% of the manpower of heavy bombers. The change of the P-47 from a pure fighter to a fighter bomber, carrying half of a B-17's bomb load, is more than just a tactical shift. It shows the American military's gift for practical adaptation. The German Air Force never expected this change because it went against their core belief in specialized military tools. German military thinking focused on perfection in specific roles: the best fighter, the best bomber, the best attack plane. American thinking, shaped by industrial common sense, focused on adaptability and efficiency. The P-47 proved that in modern war, flexibility is better than specialization. When German pilots met P-47s over Eindhoven on September 17, 1944, they were facing not just a plane, but a new way of military thinking. Those heavy, awkward fighters they had written off in 1943 had become the tools of their own downfall, not through being the best in any single role, but through unmatched versatility. The P-47's combat history in Europe from 1943 to 1945 is one of the most successful in aviation history. The story of how the German Air Force never expected P-47s to carry half a B-17's bomb load shows a deep truth about military progress. The Germans, who were masters of specialized greatness, failed to see that the Americans would mix the roles of fighter and bomber, making a plane that succeeded not by being perfect at one thing but by being good at everything. The P-47. Thunderbolt's change from fighter to fighter bomber didn't just catch the German Air Force by surprise. It changed air warfare forever. Every modern combat plane flying today uses lessons learned from the P-47's transformation. The heavy fighter that couldn't turn with a Messerschmitt became the plane that helped change the course of World War II. In the end, the 7-ton fighter that the Germans dismissed as too heavy to be important became the cause of their defeat. Not through better performance, but through better adaptability. The P-47 proved that in modern war, the winner isn't the one who flies the most specialized plane, but the one who adapts fastest to a changing situation. The German Air Force never expected P-47 Thunderbolts to carry half a B-17's bomb load, because such an ability went against their basic understanding of air warfare. That failure of imagination cost them air control, movement, and finally the war. The P-47's change from fighter to fighter bomber is still history's clearest example of how tactical adjustments can lead to a strategic revolution, and how failing to see that revolution can lead even the most skilled military to a crushing defeat.